will be starting now by rising to take the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as led by the media. Nous allons chanter maintenant l'hymne national du Nigeria. Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, kindly join me as I establish the protocol now. Kindly join me as I make welcome to this august and auspicious occasion the President, Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria, Alhaji Tijjani and Borrodo, F.CIoD. Let's put your hands together for him. Welcome, sir. The first Vice President, Mr. Aduloju, F.CIoD. The second Vice President, Mrs. Amina Oyebola, F.CIoD. The Honorable Treasurer, Mrs. Fomi Oyetunji, F.CIoD. The Honorable Legal Advisor, Dr. Adika Hazan, F.CIoD. I can't see him yet in the building. Thank you. The immediate past president, Dr. Tijjani, F.CIoD. The DGCO is Mr. Idigbe, F.CIoD. Our special guest, Chief Anthony Idigbe, F.CIoD, Chairman of the occasion. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Our special guest of honor, Mrs. Deri Awushika. A round of applause. Pass for the seat. All right. And our keynote speaker, Dr. Aduloju. A resounding, resonating round of applause for him. Our past president, Mr. Femi Ekundayo, DF.CIoD. Welcome, sir. Architect T.C. Awadu, DF.CIoD. Chief Priest Okunowo, DF.CIoD. Members of the Governing Council present, please a resounding, resonating round of applause for them. Our sponsors, Sanlam Life Insurance, Intercontinental Distillers, Seplat Energy PLC, Zenith Bank, Signature Bank, FBN Quest Merchant Bank, Unit Trust Insurance Company. Please, a resounding round of applause for our sponsors. Captains of industries, members of the press, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once again, and welcome to the 2025 Biennial Lecture in honor of Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD, as well as the unveiling of the new CIOD logo. This program today has the theme Building Digital Resilience, Governance, Risk, and Compliance. The program will avail us the opportunity of listening to speech by distinguished Nigerians, and in particular, the keynote address. It will also avail us of the opportunity of sharing and recognizing distinguished Nigerians who will be given awards today for their enormous contribution to corporate governance in Nigeria. My name is Adedeji Ojulesi. Je suis le maître de cérémonie pour le programme d'aujourd'hui, and I believe you will have a fantastic time together. Thank you for having me. Quickly, we'll be having now the welcome address by the chief host, Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD, the distinguished president and chairman of council, CIOD Nigeria. Please give him a resounding, resonating, reverberating round of applause. He has done 2 years now in leading this dynamic organization. Thank you for being here today. Please let the applause come till he's here, up here.
Let me start from the house cleaning. Somebody's looking at me here, and that's the DG CEO. And I told him that going forward from today, whenever we are doing our programs, people should feel free to either hold a microphone or to get kitted to have a microphone on them. He promised me he's going to do that. So DG, well done for that. Now it is 11:30. It's unlike us to start events late, so I sincerely apologize. It will not happen next time. I have a few words before this August audience, which is called my address. I start with our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Tayo Aduloju, CEO, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, chairman of this occasion, the Lioness Silk, Chief Anthony Idigbe, F.CIoD, our special guest of honor, Mrs. Dere Awoshika. It is unlike her not to be here, but I believe she's going to join us. The first vice president, Otumba Adetunji Oyebanji, Emilokon. The second vice president, Mrs. Amina Oyagbola. Distinguished past president here, members of the governing council, of the Chartered Institute of Directors here, fellows, and members of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. Gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today with a heart brimming with gratitude to Almighty Allah and profound humility. I welcome you all to the 2025 biennial lecture of our great institute. It is a valedictory event marking the twilight of my 2-year tenure as the president and chairman of the governing council of the Chartered Institute of Directors. It is an occasion of immense significance to me personally and my family. That's why I recognize my wife, Haji Larry Borrodo here. It's of significance to us as a family. That's why I'm recognizing her at this stage. The granddaughter is there. She's here with us. Over the years, in history of the Institute, successive presidents have utilized the opportunity provided by biennial lecture to brief the business community about their own 2-year tenure as president and chairman of governing council. My case would not be different as I now bow out of office in the next couple of 2 weeks maximum. Before I delve into the essence of this gathering, I must express my sincere appreciation to our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Tayo, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the chairman of this occasion, the learned silk, Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN, F.CIoD, and the special guest of honor, Mrs. Daria Awoshika. We called and you answered despite their busy schedules. We are most grateful for this, and I say a very big thank you. I extend warm welcome to all distinguished past presidents of our esteemed institute who have graced this occasion. Today, we celebrate the selfless service that you all gave to the institute and appreciate your sacrifice, the last of which cannot be mentioned. To all our office bearers and council members, I welcome and appreciate your presence. 2 years ago, I embarked on this journey as the president of our institute, filled with a sense of responsibility and unshakable transformative agenda for good corporate governance. I was tasked with the unique assignment of leading the transition of our institute from the body governed by karma to an organization governed by the act. As you are aware, I took office barely a month after the signing of the law, the Establishment Act, a turning point in the history of our institute. It has been a tenure marked by challenges and triumphs, the moments of intense deliberation and exhilarating progress. Throughout this period, my primary focus has been to strengthen the institute's position as the leading voice for corporate governance in Nigeria, to champion ethical leadership, and to foster an environment where business can thrive in a sustainable manner. Doing all this within the shadow of a necessary transition that will ensure that the institute remains focused on the implementation of the extant provisions of the Charter Institute of Directors Establishment Act 2023. My journey into IOD presidency was therefore that of keeping strategic direction that would guide my tenure. This agenda was anchored on the promotion of excellence in corporate governance and the advocacy policy and practices that foster growth, innovation, and institutional strength, which I called the 3 Rs. That is review, reform, reinvigorate the Charter Institute of Directors, Nigeria. This agenda was built upon the forward-thinking initiative of my predecessor and reinforced our collective commitment to future readiness and cornerstone of our current strategic plan. In the past 2 years, we have navigated the dynamic economic landscape, one that demanded resilience, adaptability, foresight from leaders across all sectors, and the Institute has provided relevant insight, cutting-edge training, and robust platform for advocacy, networking, knowledge sharing. We have actively engaged with policymakers, advocated reforms that promote a better business environment, and consistently emphasize the critical role of strong governance frameworks in building investors' confidence and fostering long-term value creation for the businesses. Distinguished fellows and members of the Institute, I'm immensely proud of the strides we have made together in the past 2 years. We have improved our services and engagement with our team members, our training and capacity development programs, which empowered countless directors with skills, knowledge necessary to navigate the complex environment of the business world today. We have contributed meaningfully to the enhancement of good corporate governance in Nigeria through meaningful conversations around corporate responsibilities and accountability, our commitment to fostering vibrant community of ethical leadership. All these have deepened the impact of the Institute across the nation. None of these achievements would have been possible without the unwavering dedication of the Governing Council, the tireless efforts of the Secretariat staff, and the active participation of every member. For your support, commitment, and belief in our shared vision, I offer my profound gratitude. In our transition journey over the past 2 years, we have deliberately focused on certain key areas. Specifically, there are 8 key areas we are focused on. Number 1, that is reconstitution of the Governing Council. In compliance with Section 6, Subsection 2 of the Establishment Act, we undertook a comprehensive reconstitution of the Governing Council, and the notable changes that happened are the exit of all past presidents except 3 most recent from the Governing Council, inclusion of representatives of key MDS, namely Federal Ministry of Trade and Industry, Federal Ministry of Education, Security and Exchange Commission, Corporate Affairs Commission, Financial Reporting Council, and a professor from the academia. To facilitate this, the Institute undertook advocacy visits to all of these MDS. We visited each and every of these government departments. Secondly, with dissolution of the Executive Committee. As part of our governance realignment, the Executive Committee was formally dissolved. Its oversight responsibilities have been absorbed into the newly constituted Standing Advocacy and Ad hoc Committees of the Governing Council. These changes reflect a shift towards a more streamlined and inclusive governance, bringing decision-making closer to the core of the Council. 3, establishment of sectoral groups. In line with our charter, the mandate to engage more meaningfully with broader economy, former policy committees was restructured into sectoral groups, tasked with providing industry-specific insights and shaping advocacy agenda. The Institute has now 15 sectoral groups, which are open to all members and are designed to foster deeper collaboration, improve industry representation, and drive policy initiative that reflects the realities of the sectors of our members. 4, Institute regulation. The previous governance charter of the Institute was refined into Institute regulation in accordance with Section 37 of the Act. These regulations serve as the foundational governance framework of the Institute, and we are fleshing up these regulations. 5, disciplinary tribunal and investigative panel. I'm also pleased to announce that in fulfillment of the requirements of the Act, the disciplinary tribunal rules and procedure and investigative panel rules, which establish a fair, clear, and transparent procedure for managing ethical breaches and grievances that uphold the highest standards of professional integrity and accountability, that safeguards the integrity and the role that members provide. By institutionalizing the structures, we affirm our commitment to accountability, transparency, and rule of law. 6, Charter Director Program. I'm sure that is an area that each and every one of us is really, really looking forward to. A key fallout of our act is the license to produce charter directors. I am proud to say that we are the only organization in the country today that is licensed to produce charter directors. We have embarked on elaborate consultation, getting consultancy. Mrs. KPMG, I must admit, have been very, very gracious to be part of this journey. I must acknowledge what KPMG have done for us. We thank them most sincerely. What I assure members is, in the next couple of months, I believe by the special grace of Almighty God, we are going to have charter directors among us here. In a couple of months, we'll get that done. Branch restructuring. On this, I must single out our second vice president, Ms. Amina Oyegwala. She has done so well in terms of the exercise of branch restructuring. It has taken her 1.5 years, almost all of my tenure. But I'm happy to say that by the kind of structure we have, our branches are going to be better equipped. Members are going to have most improved facilities. Members are going to have most interactive educational materials. I mean, I thank you most sincerely, you and the members of your committee. Number 7, the rebranding initiative. In the wake of a transition to a charter institute, the Governing Council approved the constitution of the rebranding committee in the year 2024. The committee was tasked with the critical mandate of redefining the institute brand. I am happy to know that today we have reached a crescendo and the branding efforts as we proudly unveil a new logo of the Charter Institute of Directors, Nigeria. This unveiling marks the beginning of a bold new era for our Charter Institute of Directors. Congratulations to all of us. Prince Adelogun, I don't know where you are seated. I must commend you and the members of your own team. From all of us from the Institute, you have done a good job. Thank you very much. As I prepare to hand over the mantle of leadership in a few days, I also do so with confidence in the future of the Charter Institute of Directors. We are renewed, redefined, and indeed ready for the future. I thank you for your attention and we look forward to an exciting afternoon. May I ask that the members of the PCSC please stand up. The members of the PCSC, please stand up. My directors, let me reveal the secret. This is the engine. There was nothing I did without consulting the PCSC, and I'm better off. Tunji, I suggest that to you. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please let's celebrate our president, Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD. Very inclusive leadership. We appreciate you for that. It's very obvious. Thank you for the round of applause for him. And he's a family man. He's here not only with Alhaja, He's also here with the son and then daughter-in-law, and then the granddaughter. Thank you for your leadership and the heights you've taken the institute so that's now it's now with the capacity to have chartered directors, which is very, very important. Yes, 2 years of leadership, it's not an easy task. And we appreciate all the past presidents that are also here to give their support. Thank you very much. All right, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving straight to the remarks by the chairman of the occasion, Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN, F.CIoD, senior partner, Panuka Attorneys. Please put your hands together for our distinguished chairman of the occasion. Yes, I know we mightn't have taken breakfast, but please, your hands, just celebrate him as he comes forward. He's the chairman of the occasion. Thank you for being here, sir.
The president of the CIOD, Alhaji Tijjani Borrodo, guest speaker, Mr. Dr. Aduloju, guest of honor in absentia, former presidents, members, and fellows of the CIOD, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am quite honored to chair this occasion. I have had a very long relationship with the CIOD and its precursor, the IOD. And those of you that dragged me into the IOD movement are here. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And many of my mentors are here. We hope that we have not disappointed your confidence in us when you dragged us into this movement. I was asked, although I will be sharing the occasion, to say a few things about the theme of this occasion. So although it is sort of like an occasion for reporting the performance of our president, however, they had decided that it was important to reflect on the contemporary issue of building digital resilience in the circumstances that we find ourselves. And I would basically start my reflection by referring to a Fortune 500 and Deloitte CEO survey of spring 2025, which is April this year. And they surveyed about 111 CEOs of top global companies involved in about 21 industries. And I just want to quote a little bit from it, what they said. And they said that a majority of those CEOs that they surveyed reported high levels of pessimism about the global economy compared to 18% in fall 2024. CEOs' optimism for their organizations and industries plummeted from fall 2024, from 84% to 60% for their organizations, and from 61% to 32% for their industries. The level of uncertainty across the economic, geopolitical, and political landscape is a top challenge today, according to a majority of CEOs, and perhaps a key driver in the shift in outlook. As one of the CEOs shares, quote, "The biggest challenge I face today is the uncertainty related to the global economic landscape and the lack of sustained planning." In fact, the CEO of Deloitte, Jason Gezadas, summarized the current environment for business when he said, and I quote, "Recent shifts in policy, evolving trade dynamics, and heightened economic uncertainty have significantly dampened CEO optimism. In this challenging environment, the key takeaway is the critical need for adaptability and forward-thinking leadership. By embracing change and innovation, there is an opportunity to transform uncertainty into catalyst for sustainable long-term growth." So I think a lot of the references you would find are around the tariff issues in the US and its impact globally. But we should not forget that only recently, there were also other events that brought uncertainty to us, such as COVID-19 pandemic. And even for us in Nigeria, the two critical challenges that we faced recently, the devaluation of our currency and the removal of subsidies. I sit on boards, so I know what we've been through in the past few years, but it is stabilizing. Only for those who prepared. Only for those who prepared. And I guess that's the theme about digital resilience. And now there's a very interesting blog that I would recommend. It's called Directors and Board. You can get it on the internet. They publish a newsletter and they argue that in today's business world, leaders face unprecedented challenges that have fundamentally altered corporate governance. The familiar VOCA framework, that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambitious, that guided organizations for decades, no longer captures our current reality. We've entered what experts now recognize as banning, the banning world, that is brittle, anxious, non-nuclear, non-linear, and incomprehensible. This demands complete rethinking of leadership and governance strategies. And then they suggested that boards must have an action plan with dealing with such uncertainties. So within this context, e-commerce and digital resilience have moved from just business value creation to having social impact. So aside from business value creation, such as using it to improve your targeting of your customers, your customer preferences, sales maximization, or computer-mediated communication, you find that e-commerce and digital resilience can enable you to serve underprivileged communities. It can help you with poverty alleviation and elimination of geographical barriers. For instance, places where they have difficulty with logistics and roads and other infrastructure, they can be brought into the economy through digital platforms, etc. And then you can eliminate barriers like middlemen and etc. Also, the delivery of government services to citizens through a digital e-governance platform can overcome uncertainties and improve government value creation, as well as improve services to the citizens. Now, according to Pierluigi Matera, artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming corporate governance and board accountability to shareholders by providing increased tools for shareholder activism. So I don't know, I have to be very careful because I'm on one of the boards that the shareholders are very active. And I think at the last time, a particular resolution failed as a result of the activism of the shareholders. But the shareholders are beginning to apply technology and digital tools to get data to challenge what the board is doing or what the board is saying. So consequently, boards must discharge their responsibilities in the digital space, partly to mitigate the risk of liability and to build digital resilience for the organization in the face of uncertainty. So when we talk about building digital,
it's of operations, okay, but also as a way to be accountable, because certain risks that involved playing a role as a director. Lastly, data indicates an increase or more than double in sharing intelligence or digital related class action. I'm using this US data. And also COVID-19
filings, that's court cases, also rose. So you see cases like, there's a case like Facebook Inc. against Amalgamated Bank or Nvidia Corporation against Homan. These draw attention to the litigation risk around data governance practices of companies and the role of courts holding them accountable. So while data is not easily available in the Nigerian context, from my experience and practice, there are several litigation related to data governance issues, such as Ponzi schemes using digital platforms and traditional shareholder activism challenging board directions. However, of significance is the US dollar 290 million fine imposed on Meta Platform Inc. and WhatsApp LLC, owners of Facebook and WhatsApp, for violation of competition, advertising, and data protection laws in Nigeria by the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, which fines were upheld by the Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal on April 25 of this year. I believe the matter is now on appeal. So I say no more. I just mention it as a data to you. On the basis of this, there's a need for us to understand the need for digital resilience. Data, of course, is an asset, a very important asset, a valuable asset. And usually that data, we've always had the data, but at times, your customers, well, you have customers because you have receipts and you have invoices, right? But they are just like in the books. They are just there. So what data does is you'll be able to mine it, get it together, then you enhance it by adding some additional information to it. So you have the process of the data collection, then you enhance that data by maybe knowing where they live, knowing the kind of food they eat, knowing their preferences, and then because you now have this additional enhancement to that data, you can now tailor your offering to them, to their specific needs, because you know exactly where they are located, for instance, their geographical location or the type of food they like or the type of music they like, etc. So it's a process of enhancing data. Some of the challenges, as you see from the Facebook case, the Meta case I mentioned, is when you start sharing that data with others, then there can be some legal challenges tied to it. So I know it's early afternoon, and I will try not to bother you. My intent is simply to whet your appetite about this issue, so that when you go back to your organization, you begin to deal with these issues. So what are the benefits now that we know the need for data? How do you benefit from it? Some of the scholars that I discuss here talk about what they call F.CIoD, that we've gone F.CIoD. In other words, that there's the physical and the digital mixed together to be able to create the benefit for your consumers. And that we've gone digital. And so it's an issue of people, process, and technology. So for your people, you have to determine, do they have the digital skills of today? Do you need to upscale them? Do you need to retool them? And then what's your process? How do you redesign your processes? And then what's the technology that will go behind all this to then enable innovation to be released? Now, the problem is once the innovation is released, and then you use it, there are risks around cyber fraud, cyber crime, cyber security, etc. The challenges of when you share that data and whether you got the consent of the people. In Nigeria, for instance, we have certain laws like the Nigerian Data Protection Act and the regulation, etc. So what do you do? Because now you've moved the data from the books to a digital space. In that digital space, somebody else can access it. If there are no controls and systems like that, and there could be a breach of privacy. So what do you do as the board? So what we did in many companies that I'm involved with is you must have a strategy for governance, for risk management, and for compliance. So governance is about the foundation. Risk management is about dealing with uncertainties, and compliance is about their adhering to the standards and the regulations. And one of the things we do is make sure you have a committee, board committee on risk. Make sure you have rules and policies that you have adopted for the governance, and then make sure that you have follow-up, which means follow-up monitoring, etc. And don't necessarily depend on management. If you schedule it and ensure that they report to the relevant committee, and that you also invest in the human people who have the capacity to review many of like your technology. Somebody has to be going in to the website to check daily, actually, for some organizations, depending on how big it is. Once you have that frame, you would have been able to manage the risk that is associated with your position as a director. But also what you do is, because you can operate digitally, you will be able to maintain business continuity if there is a digital event. And there are so many of those digital disruptions. It can be as a result of government policy, but it can be as a result of climate change. It can be as a result of a hack. It can be as a result of so many uncertainties. The most important thing is that the board needs to be positioned to be able to be resilient if such digital disruptions occur. I think I have given you enough food for thought before our guest speaker comes to drill properly into the subject. And I wish all of us a very exciting day listening to our guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you for the generous applause to our loaded chairman of the occasion, Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN F.CIoD. Please a round of applause once again for our learned. When somebody says "son," loaded with information. Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to quickly recognize two of our past presidents. Firstly, Mr. Chike Nwanze, DF, CIOD. And Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, FDF, CIOD. Thank you for being here today. Yes, it's now time to listen to the biennial lecture. And if it's a biennial lecture, then our lecturer for today is the current CEO of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, a private sector-led think tank focused on economic reforms and national development in Nigeria. He was advisor to former presidents like Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, and Buhari. He served as chair of the country illicit financial flows mapping group. He was co-chair of Nigeria OGP, Poverty Eradication and Social Protection Technical Working Group. He is a fellow of professional bodies, including the Institute of Strategic Management, Nigeria, and the Institute of Management Consultants, USA. Interestingly, he holds 5 master's degrees, apart from the fact that he's a doctor. Very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, kindly join me as we'll make welcome our articulate, brilliant, cerebral, sought-after keynote speaker, Dr. Tayo Aduloju, CEO, Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Welcome, sir. You have to use this.
That's great. So good morning, everybody. I want to first and foremost extend a really heartfelt congratulations to Mr. President and Chair of the Chartered Institute of Directors. I think your tenure has been auspicious in delivering to us what is now an elevated institute like none other, with this emergence of the Chartered Director, and for the immense work in birthing the next phase of corporate governance in Nigeria. Congratulations, sir. And congratulations, Haji, for, behind every great man is a greater woman. The immediate past president and chair of council, other past presidents here, distinguished fellows, members of the Institute, ladies and gentlemen, I think that I will stand on well-established protocols to just note that as the chair of the occasion had jumped into my notes, I will just continue from there by saying that digital terraformation of our world is now our reality, whether we like it or not. And so I want to congratulate the Institute for picking a befitting subject to celebrate our chair and president on this auspicious occasion of biennial lecture, and the rare privilege of your audience and your presence. The problem with being in the room with my teachers and my elders is that you will be checking whether you're ticking the boxes. So I'm a bit apprehensive, but I'll try and get going. Digital economy, by its very essence, means that value has been taken into the digital space. It means that that value is now going to be contested for those that create it, those that trade in it, those that transform it, and those that would steal it, as when value was in the physical world. So by virtue of value being created in the digital economy, some of the foregone conclusions are well established, that attackers will persist to attack the digital economy, that risks will abound, that tactics to extract value by inordinate means will be pervasive. These are not subjects of debate. These are self-evident in human nature. When, those of us that grew up as children of farmers, you finish farming the land, you've cultivated, you go away, you are sure, you are not guessing, you're sure that if you do not protect the farmland from elements that want to trap your value in the ground, your value will be extracted without your permission, right? So there is no need worrying about whether people want to access our participation in the digital economy. That's guaranteed. Hence, digital transformation as a concept that birthed the digital economy, and all our companies increasingly racing to trade our goods, our services, our products across the digital space, guarantees an acceleration and escalation of risks. These risks is what we must now all be ready for, because like the eloquent Silk has said better than I, the imperative of not transforming is death. Imagine a banker that decides he wants to stick with tally number. He wouldn't have survived the first wave of banking technology transformation, which was Finacol and Terminus, changing how banking was done. You couldn't even have survived that phase. Now imagine that that phase then went to banking, what we called, went from 1.0 to 2.0, automation of all banking processes, right? At that point, even if you were the best, the most competent tally number giver, your job was out the door at that point. And then we raised a massive banking workforce in Nigeria. I mean, I ran a company where my outsourced staff to banking was 17,000. And one day, as banking automation scaled, HR directors called us to say, sorry, can you carry your people somewhere else? We no longer need them. So not only is digital transformation reshaping the society, it as a risk and a disruptor, the value we extract from it is also at risk. In banking 3.0, those that massively invested in branches around the country were disrupted by those that massively invested in ATMs. And ATM then disrupted branches. And then, of course, in the middle of that, platforms, thanks to Diamond Bank and the rest, as platform businesses began to emerge, e-payment began to transform and terraform banking. The rest, they say, is history. And now bank check has been disrupted by small players. Somebody called it Money Point. What is Money Point? However, they are delivering the largest digital transaction size in the history of Nigeria. So terraformation will happen whether we as directors like it or not. And we need to mandate our organizations to get with the program. You know, so tap a director beside you and say, get with the program. Yeah. Now, so my presumption begins with the fact that you are already getting with the program, that you are conscious that digital transformation is here to stay, that you're conscious that digital terraformation of the world will reshape everything. I was reading in the newspapers this morning, President Trump will likely be the first billion-dollar president by crypto. Amazing. A few years ago, every president was banning crypto. Now there's a sitting US president at likely $1 billion in crypto investments. Interesting. So bold new world. Now this bold new world has created cyber threats in the cyberspace that governs and manages the interactions of our products, our services, our goods being sold around the world. So cybersecurity and its risk are the attendant consequences. In the last 1 year, cyber threats around the world increased by 150%. 23% of the attacks, 53% of the attacks focus on government. So government is not spared, okay? Risks impacted by AI has gone up by 85%. So as we adopt AI, we are also adopting some of the risks. The success rate of cyber attacks is at 58%. And the cost of cybercrime in 2025 has been put at an estimated 10.5 trillion. Wow. Therefore, for an outline today, I would like to jump into why this global risk factor will persist, the divide, especially between management and board in terms of their views, and within management itself, point to some opportunities to manage this risk, and then I will end with maybe some propositions about where the governance model might want to go. So, when all is said and done, the world is growing more divided. The Global Risk Report by the World Economic Forum says misinformation and disinformation is ranked as one of the most severe impacts of digital in our time, and we see it everywhere. Second is there's a massive growth in cyber espionage warfare infrastructure attacks, and again, we see this in our time. The scale of attack in banking in Nigeria grew by a whooping 1,360% in 2 years, pointing to a huge demand from attackers to attack us, whether we are ready for it or not. Technology acceleration, therefore, means that whilst inequalities grow in our capacity to use the technology, those that know how to use it well will continue to implement greater risks, greater threats. And in a connected world, this will be a significant problem. Next slide. So central technologies impact us across social, political, economic domains. And the big idea here is you're not spared by it simply because you don't care. Whether you like it or not, elections are now being hacked. Whether you like it or not, data that means that billions can be ransomwared away are now being implemented, taken hostage with attendant consequences. But maybe the most significant impact of digital, before I move away from it, next slide, is that the data we see is now questionable. Next slide. Because the scale of misinformation and disinformation as a strategy of regions, nation states, markets, industry, and industry players is high. How are you sure that what you see as a board, what you see as a country, what you see as a society, what you see as a market is not a disinformation strategy by another set of markets to make you uncomfortable whilst they take advantage of you? So the severity of misinformation and disinformation and its application to political, economic, and social systems means that we must all pay attention. If you look at the next slide, it's ranked amongst as number one global risk in the next 2 years. Look at number 5. Cyber espionage and warfare is ranked number 5 global risk in the next 2 years. And they don't go away. In the next 10 years, misinformation, disinformation, adverse outcomes of AI technology, cyber warfare, and espionage are future issues. So this isn't just a conversation for today. This is an imperative for tomorrow. Now, when all groups of society, civil society, international organizations, academia, government were asked what's important, next slide, all of them note that misinformation and disinformation and cyber threats are a problem for them. So by the way, there's complete consensus, maybe by different rankings, but there's complete consensus around the world that cyber security risks are a challenge. Now, these risks naturally translate themselves into different formats. The first is the risk to your core operations, that your core business can start working. The second is the risk to your core brand, that your brand equity can be destroyed. The third is the risk to the products and services and how they arrive in the market, that could be significantly disruptive. And the last is the risk to your infrastructure, that your core infrastructure can completely fail. And we can see that now with energy systems in Ukraine being hacked. Okay, as we move towards this more digital world where we are connecting every sector of the economy to digital, we must be ready for securing the future, for strategic cyber security response, for our capabilities to match the state of the threats. And this applies to all levels. So whilst we discuss digital resilience at a corporate level, you must have digital resilience at a national level because you have nation-state threats to digital. And then, of course, you must have at a industry level, at a market level, and of course at the corporate level, ransomware fraud. I think Mr. Chair of the ceremony was speaking to fraud, identity theft, disruption of denial of service, etc. Now, the challenge is why the data is clear on consensus. Within organizations, there's still some divide. Next slide. The divide basically shows that whilst everyone agrees that there are risks, within businesses, CEOs generally think, and this is from a PwC report, next slide, you basically see that concern and preparedness for attacks, when you look at the top types of attacks in terms of cyber threats, cloud-related threats, hack and leak operations, third-party breaches, attacks on connected products, and ransomware, you will see that where the concerns, where the threats are highest, right, the preparedness to respond to the threat does not match it. So this is an overall worry that in order to match cyber threats, generally organizations are showing a lower level of strategic readiness capability to respond when these major threats happen. And this is a cause for worry if we are unprepared for what now looks like the inevitable. Now, business executives tend to prioritize economic risks other than digital risks? Of course, for obvious reasons. If you're in Nigeria, like the chair of ceremony was pointing out, you likely are worried about inflation risk first, right? Next slide. You're thinking to yourself, your biggest problem is not digital. Your biggest problem is Tinubunomics and its twin reforms, right? That's your biggest headache today. But what you do not want is, so whilst you're worrying about Tinubunomics, for all your value to simply be extracted and your enterprise brought to its knee while you're not paying attention. And so generally, the sentiment amongst business executives is to prioritize other economic risks rather than cyber risks. Also, when chief executive officers and chief information officers were asked, right, about their level of readiness, next slide. We see that the CEOs are a bit more confident than they need to be. The owners of cyber risk controls say we are not as ready, but the CEOs say, we think we are doing well. And so, by the way, this is a governance issue. Boards might want to ask someone other than the CEO about how we are doing, because across board, you can see that the sentiment by the chief information officers is we are not as ready, and the CEOs are saying we are more than ready. So this is an imperative for boards to just make sure that they have another check with the CIOs about how things are really going, especially from those that have an understanding of what the technology architecture of the businesses and what the risks might be. Now, let's go to opportunities. And I won't spend time on opportunities because the chair of ceremony did a much better job than I. The fact is that global disruption is here to stay. Transformation will continue. In fact, by 2030, we should be way past 90% broadband penetration if the president achieves his goal, right? At that point, then all types of money transactions can go viral across the country. If you take that alone in Nigeria, it means that for the first time in a generation, right, cash is gone. You know, the way we said subsidy is gone. Cash could be gone for good. What will that mean in terms of opportunities for your business, for the enterprises? Huge. We are seeing, next slide, across regions, right, big global jumps in digital adaptation, not just in Nigeria, across Africa, right? And this means that opportunities to connect the world will continue to grow. Africa has just activated its Pan-African payment system, which for the first time means that I can pay from Naira into CDs or into Cephas, into RAN, etc. And that transforms what is possible for the entities and the enterprises we govern. This has the same implication as the opportunity as the threat, okay? The evolution of digital transformation and adaptation, next slide, in the past few years has meant that opportunity gainers, chair of ceremony and we're having a side conversation. I said, how was business? He said, the pandemic changed our business for good, right? Because we have what we call the pandemic drivers. Pandemic accelerated digital adoption for many businesses. Many of us were still stuck in physically showing up for meetings and refusing to digitize, right? But COVID delivered the impossible. All of us were stuck in one location long enough for us to finally accept that the world has changed for good. So the opportunities are there, and countries that can transform those opportunities by connectedness is the key. And this is why the race to connect Nigeria is something that all of corporate Nigeria must support. Nigeria, next slide, still lives on less than 40% a year in terms of GDP per capita. You can transform that radically if you can connect more people to markets. So let's jump into my last portion of my presentation, which is where I would like to spend some more time and then close. which is this idea of resilience. So given digital transformation is here to stay, given the transformation has built an explosion of opportunities, given those opportunities create massive escalation in threats, given we cannot ignore those threats, nor can we ignore the opportunities. Digital resilience then becomes the imperative in terms of corporate governance capability to be able to make a difference. So resilience is top of mind today for all executives because it is an imperative. I must be able to respond. I must be able to recover. I must be able to adapt to a world that is radically different and a world that is changing at an accelerated rate. Totally right. You can no longer even use the word VUCA to describe what on earth we are going to. So resilience is a new competitive edge in a world that is defined by super disruption. And digital resilience is an organization's capacity to withstand and recover from these disruptions, both anticipated, unexpected, leveraging digital technologies and processes. Ladies and gentlemen, next slide. At the heart of digital resilience frameworks is a basic idea. You must have invested in a residual capacity to respond. That means that as your business transforms through the digital transformation process, you must become aware of the risks it's imposing on leadership and the organization, on operations, on your brand and reputation, on your customers and the ecosystem via which you deliver products, services, and information, on your workforce and on your financial architecture. You must also become more vested in how you are acquiring technologies. So it's not just buying the next fad in the market, it's ensuring that the board is vested in the acquisition process by which different digital technologies are pulled together into your company, into your business, into your enterprise. Because it is that being vested in how you are acquiring the digital technologies that builds what we call an enterprise digital architecture. That digital architecture forms the foundational infrastructure for your first level of response, what we call the resilience capability or the response capability to your initial attacks. Now, there are three phases of resilience. First is I must be able to respond and restore business operations when there's a cyber attack. Second is that I must be able to expand and optimize my business operations, bearing in mind that expansion has its expansion risks, especially in the digital economy. And third is I have to continuously accelerate and innovate because whilst we are getting better, hackers, attackers, cyber warfare, cyber espionage is also getting better. So when we discuss the phases, next slide, of digital resilience, the immediate phase of respond and restore has fundamental implications for ensuring that the executives, one, show the board that they are ready for threats on the horizon. But also the board must by itself oversee risk management, strategic response capability, and continuity planning to force management to demonstrate that not only can they respond, but in a crisis, they can restore business operations in the shortest possible time by demonstrating that the technologies and how they have been acquired, both in terms of the architecture, that's how you've arranged them, and the infrastructure, the pieces that are there, software, hardware, and infrastructure, align in such a way to protect the business. Now, as the business begins to expand, the board needs to ensure that there is a balance between operational improvements and strategic planning. So, for example, when you leapfrog from your legacy systems where your chair of ceremony was pointing, your database was sitting nicely in a server, and you then said you are going to move it to the cloud. Don't just accept when somebody clouds you. You know, those of us that don't understand what cloud means, say, is this safe in the cloud? They say yes, and you move on. How you must ask questions. How safe is it in the cloud? What are the levels of security you've put in place to guarantee that somebody cannot hack it in the cloud? You want to make sure that you are asking the questions that guarantee that as you expand your services, these difficult questions are answered. Of course, this imposes a certain amount of learning for all of us. Now, when you are a Gen Z, this is pretty easy. The connected generation was born speaking this language. But if you're not X, Y, or Z, you can see where the problem is. We have to send pre-X, Y, Z generations back to school, especially because boards are still governed by seasoned veterans and captains of industry. And so it's okay for secretaries of boards and directors of board to say, let's send our veterans for a weekend, catch up on the emerging digital technologies. It is well worth the time. It's well worth the time. And Mr. President and Chair, as we build this new chartered cadre of directors, this might be something we want to build as a regular review in terms of some course that revisits the digital technologies, their infrastructure and architecture as they continue to evolve across different spaces. Next slide. Now, when we assess resilience, digital resilience, we must assess it across dimensions. How does it connect leadership and the organization? How does it improve work resiliency? Can we get the workforce back into action quickly? COVID was a good example as to whether your digital infrastructure was useful for workforce resilience, right? You could have had all the automation in the office, but what happens when your people can't go to work, right? Can they reactivate? I think now, post-COVID, this is almost a done deal. Most of us are work Zooming, Teams meeting, conferencing on the go, but if you said this a couple of years ago, that would have been strange. So one of the things that COVID did for us was that it integrated workforce resiliency into the digital infrastructure framework. What do you do when there's an attack on service? Because one of the key attacks is the DDoS attacks, which creates a denial of service on platforms. What do you do? What should be the level of redundancy in your systems be? And how do you ensure that the redundancy kicks in on time to ensure your most prized customers are not stuck, or worst case, are not robbed? Okay, next slide. So when you look at, next slide. So when you look at the urgency to become digitally resilient, what you find is that those of us operating, in what you call companies that are more under digital stress tend to be in a greater hurry to be resilient, right? And then you find that companies that basically are playing in banking, consumer media, etc., tend to show at least medium to high. Now, notice the guys that don't come along quickly. Public sector, utilities tend to be dragging their feet. Even though, for example, digital payment system and digital energy systems have been here for 25 years, we are still discussing adoption of smart meters around the country. Okay, so there seems to be a challenge where government is the slowest actor in terms of digital resilience. But by the way, this is a problem because government is under attack. Like I said when I started, 58% of government operations are under constant attack in the world by cyber threats. So this is not good, by the way. And so one of our advocacies to government is you must shift now. That's why we are active advocates for the passage of the e-governance legislation that allows for the complete digitization of the whole of government. Now, this map comes from the Global Cybersecurity Index. It basically breaks every country by legal, technical, organizational, capacity development, and cooperation matrix, and is a way to measure how countries are doing. Now, this is Nigeria, and so if you see how Nigeria is doing, in terms of legal, we are fine. We kind of have all the laws, policies, plans for digital resilience. The challenge is when we discuss cooperation amongst partners, agencies, and firms to get it working, there's a big problem with cooperation between public and private sector. And then there's a big capacity gap. Capacity gap in terms of training, incentives, the knowledge, the skill, the competencies to respond to digital and cyber risks remains a big issue in Nigeria. And this is something we need to tackle together. And then, of course, organizational measures points to the organizations within the nation and the ability to implement cybersecurity response strategies and capabilities. So if you look at Nigeria's map, you will see that cooperation between public, private sector, and citizens, capacity development, and organizational capacity are our biggest problems. And so thank you again to the Chartered Institute of Directors for this opportunity to begin to build more capacity in this crucial area. Now, you will notice that Nigeria is a tier 3, back to that slide, please, is a tier 3 nation. In other words, we're not where we want to be, but we are not where we were, right? We are establishing the capacity for cyber resilience in Nigeria, which means that government-driven actions that allow us to progress. We have built the right policies and processes, and we now need to just shift on some critical areas. So some notes for Nigeria before I come to business. One is there is still limited digital infrastructure to match our demand in Nigeria. And what has not helped is that in the last few years, tariffs in the digital economy were pegged, especially in the telco sector. That meant that we stopped seeing that huge investment required to scale digital infrastructure. And I think now that the government has unpegged it, right? I think there's a 50% headroom, headroom given on tariffs. That alone has triggered, we were speaking to the telcos last quarter, it has triggered $2 billion worth of importation of equipment and digital infrastructure capabilities that when it's onboarded this year will raise the digital infrastructure capacity of the country. So it's important. Number two is we still have a very high cybercrime rate in Nigeria. And the laws to catch, detect, prosecute, whilst they are in place, implementing them are still rigged by some corruption risk issues. There are a couple of regulatory gaps in cybersecurity law and regulations that we could improve. And we are hoping that working with the e-government bill and with the e-enterprise bill, we can resolve some of that, of course, without them asking the private sector to pay an additional cybersecurity tax. Which seems to be the motivation for writing any new legislation is to look for a way to slam us some additional taxation. So we are willing to work with them on improving the laws on one condition, that it's not at our additional expense. I think Man, Nasima, and the other members of the organized private sector of Nigeria totally agree with me on this. Now, the World Economic Forum says that what boards must think about is a complete framework. So this is an assignment to go home with. I'll walk through it and then I'll end. The first is transform your risk assessments to include the cyber risk dimension. So regular assessments that prioritize cyber risk is important. As a board, please ask for it. If you've not asked for it before, the next board meeting, ask for it, okay? This allows you to determine the extent, the context, and then, of course, integrating cyber risks into your other risks, okay? And then it allows you to now drive some risk-based decision based on what you now know might be your risks. Number two is establish and maintain a core security fundamentals. Some of the, look, we were in a cybersecurity roundtable in Europe last year, and what was clear, at least for the African data, is that 95% of all our attacks comes from one or two unmanaged laptops, right? So, by the way, so that you understand how simple this is and how complex it is, in a company of 100 laptops, all I need is 2 laptops that gives me access to the enterprise system that are not governed properly. In other words, the person doesn't use the password. The person does not use a second authentication, which requires a code to their phone. Something as simple as that, just 2 non-compliant laptops, and somebody's into your enterprise architecture. So, by the way, what you need to win on is get the fundamentals. Just check that the fundamentals are right, that your Microsoft 365 is not, is not an off the shelf, that the license has expired. Okay, that is the right. It is one that is up to date, and that the security protocols in the Micro 365 are on, they're active. Because sometimes we buy the software, the system is there, the security protocols are there, and all of them are off. So getting the fundamentals right, that everybody has, you have a password policy that creates semi-complex passwords in your organization. All these little things make a huge difference in how people enter your system. So whilst it sounds basic, you can fail on the basics as the case may be, okay? And then, of course, incorporate cyber resilience governance into business strategy. So this is a layer where, by the way, if you're in banking, you're looking at this and saying, this makes complete sense, right? But of course, if you're coming from one of the sectors that is behind, some of this will require catch-up. Now, encourage systematic resilience and collaboration. One of the ways to do this is test your system. Implement cyber security audits of your own as part of internal audit. Make it as part of something that is reported by the audit committee. Look, in addition to the other systems audits you implement some cyber audits, and then use that to ensure that the reactive or corrective actions that cultivate a culture of resilience are in place. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, organizations must ensure data resiliency efforts by, 1, avoiding silo thinking. A peer group that we belong to on the continent says that in 40% of the failures, it's just departments that were acquiring technologies and not talking to each other. And this is very common in large organizations where every department has a budget to buy their own laptops, set up their own softwares. You create a silo system that is not integrated. It's one of the #1 ways in Africa where businesses create this huge lack of resilience. Number 2, strive to understand and reflect on what enterprise resilience will mean in terms of a face of disruptions and what disruptions might happen in your market. The last is to build resilience. Businesses and leaders have to understand what capabilities may support them into the future. So for example, many of us are acquiring AI without AI security tools in the middle of deep fakes, etc. So if you must teach your people to use AI, you must teach your people to leverage all the tools that control the production of crime by AI. Okay, so don't just teach the capability, teach for the threat response for the capability. Imagine a media guy that has been taught how to use AI, but not how to use deep fakes. And then he catches President Tinubu doing some odd activity and posts it only to find out that AI has zugared him. That's the end of his career, maybe the business. Okay, in conclusion, at the NESG, we think that digital economy resilience analytic tools at a national level is an imperative. It's not deep enough. It can't help us solve some problems at scale. So we have a strategy where we are building, along with Digital Drills, the Business Council at the NESG, a new resilience index, a cyber resilience index for Nigeria in partnership with the ministry. And the idea is we want a tool that businesses can use in Nigeria at a strategic and operational level to answer deeper questions as to especially what we are seeing in country as our risks. So I hope that on that journey that, you know, well, you don't even have a choice. Well, I'm committing you to that journey, Mr. President and Chair, that you'll come along on this journey with the rest of the country, and not just that, that the Institute will lead in shaping a governance model where cyber security and digital resilience capabilities become part of the core competence of the Chartered Director as we shape a future that is safe, not just for our businesses, but for our families, our children. We are creating digital orphans with no ways to protect them. That's a different story for another day, with very dangerous consequences. And that our society and our economy is better positioned to compete way into the fourth industrial revolution and the 21st century. Thank you so much again, Mr. President, distinguished members of the Institute, for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. It's been a very rich and robust lecture. Yeah, he might not be able to leave presently because there's an interactive session. You can't deliver such a rich and robust lecture and then we just let it go like that. We know you have a flight to catch, but in a few minutes now, we should be able to tackle that. He said in 3 minutes. Oh, three questions. All right. Thank you. So if you have your questions there, please come for the mic. We want to take 3. He will note the 3. Okay, let me do from here. Okay, we have 2 here. Wow. Did you discuss it?
No, I didn't look back.
You didn't look back. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't look back. But my name is Prince Austin Isiri. F.CIoD. Former treasurer. Thank you, my dear friend and presenter. We are talking about cyber security. In relation to cloud computing, which is where a whole lot of organizations are going into today. And a lot have been said about government and all of that. Do you, in your true sense, believe that Nigeria have a clear policy around cyber security policies in this country? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is this. You have said, if I hear you, that Nigeria is trying so hard in the area of cyber security, if I hear that well. On the other bread, you have said that cyber security crime is growing in this country. I would like you to reconcile that. Finally, I serve on a board where a question was asked. The Risk and Audit Committee posed a question. In the whole of this cybersecurity and cloud system, what is the role of discernment from the Most High God in this place? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Chizo Malize, the Managing Director of FITC, and thank you for a very beautiful presentation. My question is, this is a session of board directors in and out of the room. Many are also watching online. And you also highlighted the way that the demographics approach technology. A lot of directors are neither Gen X or Y or Z. It becomes very important to continue to drive the awareness with regards to individuals and their responsibility in protecting the organizations that they sit on their board or they serve on, or they even own, with regards to digital risks. People are still battling with understanding that you don't just get a message on WhatsApp and you open it and you are hacked and you lose your money. And it's a generation that is always faced with that. And this is just WhatsApp, not to talk of institutional risk that can bring down banks, organizations, and all of that. I think it would be great if we hear from you, so you can elucidate on that and, of course, give some tips to go home with. Thank Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I think someone already has a mic up there. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Professor Lukman Oyedele from the University of West of England in Bristol, UK. I'm a professor of AI, and I'm number 4 in the world in terms of AI. I've been away from Nigeria for about 25 years, and I'm just back. And I'm quite surprised at the level at which Nigeria is operating when you compare it to South Africa, for example, that came after us. I understand the lecture is digital resilience. But the key thing here is, what about while the board of directors, of course, you are looking at your vulnerability analytics and things like that. What about the opportunities? From a philosophical way of things, it's about threat. But can we convert the threat to opportunities? Because what I see for Nigeria is more of opportunities. Nigeria is not fighting Russia. We are not fighting US or Israel. So we are sort of, to some extent, the international political economy reflects on our digital economy, whether we like it or not. But the key thing is the opportunities that are out there. You look at fintech, for example, it's one of the most successful economy in this country. There are 17 branches of fintech, and Nigeria is doing just one out of the 17, which is just payment systems, payment platform. So what is happening, whether at the director's level, whether it's at the, I don't know, that the opportunities are just too much. And if we fail to capture it, what you will be seeing is all these multinational companies coming into Nigeria and selling these services to us and taking these dollars out of the economy. I've supported that with the British government, but we need to do something in this country. Otherwise, we'll lose out. So
thank you, distinguished lady and gentlemen. Okay, there's one more question in front and then.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you also for that fantastic presentation. Just a little data point. There was a particular slide that you put up, which I found quite intriguing, which showed the level of readiness by sector, of course, government and the power and so at the bottom. Then you had some of the service sectors in the middle, and then you had the other companies which were ahead. I found it intriguing that you separated insurance from banking. So I sort of grouped them together in financial services. I found it even more intriguing that insurance was ahead of the banks. I don't know if you could give a little additional insight into that. Thank you.
Okay, so let me begin with the last. In terms of global insurance, right, because of the risk taken on insurance, ability to leverage AI to now do a lot of that, expanding the capacity for data for risk assessments has grown globally. It has now meant that as adopters, they are using it in healthcare, they're using it to predict when someone will die, if they're supporting a sick patient. So they're using it to do way more right now globally. I mean, Nigeria might be different, but globally they're using tech to do way more because the risk-taking component of insurance means that it must be ahead in applying data analytics, big data analytics, AI to a lot of sectors. And that, I think, goes to Prof's point, right, about the opportunities in AI to do many other things. AI's capacity, once we have big data supporting access to patient data, can allow us to do a broad range of things and predicting, morbidities and disease burden at an individual, society, and national level in such a way that allows us to do some very sophisticated type of insurance management planning, health, and other type of social development planning, as the case may be. So I think that that's maybe part of the driver in terms of adaptation. The other thing is that sectors tend to adapt, or segments of sectors tend to adapt based on pressure. If you look, for example, in Nigeria, payment has advanced the most because of first, the opportunity to close finance. Prof, because of the opportunity to find the financial inclusion gap, right? Payment was the first to go. It's not the only to go. I doubt it will be the only to go. My strategic bet is that in the next 4 to 8 years, all the other services will come along. But because Nigeria had a large financial exclusion gap for years, closing the gap became the first opportunity. We are still where you're, I mean, when Money Point and what's the other one? OPay and the rest, once they started to hit these ridiculous volumes in transactions, all of us were shocked. So the point is that because of where we are in our journey, these wins are important wins for those that are left behind. However, when you look at the banking system, that's banking in Nigeria. Many banks already are leveraging AI for trading, for pen. I mean, Zenith, one of our sponsors here, is maybe one of the most sophisticated trading banks in Nigeria in terms of leveraging digital, for example. So the point is that you already have your early winners. If you look at the volume of trade finance and trading in Nigeria by banking, let me not blow anybody's horn, but you will see that some entities already show they are out the door on their way ahead. The rest will catch up. So look at AI, for example. FX, the commodity exchange, is using AI already, leveraging big data analytics to plot the price of goods and services across Nigeria in open markets like Ido, Aba, etc. That's happening already. Now, the question, which is your point, is can these opportunities go to scale to make a huge difference? My answer is yes. When will it happen? As soon as all of us get with the program, like I said at the beginning. And then a very brilliant question about if you're not Gen Z, Y, or X, how can we help you? I think generally, it is the board is part of mandating its own type of training, right? I think each board needs to sit down and look at the generational gap it has. One, close your generational gap by demographic inclusion. Because the truth is, if you're not an X, you're not an X. And you're not Gen Z, you're not Gen Z. It's too late to make you Gen Z. We'll try, but we'll fail. So on one hand, boards need to be upgraded and trained as the digital transformation goes on. On the other, boards need to accept that they must bring other generations into the board that allow for Gen Z, X, Y perspectives to be visible on the board. And this is part of board inclusion, especially as we are now dealing in our country with clearly a transgenerational shift. Nigeria will be younger for longer. So not only are we going through a demographic transition, 65% of us are under 35, right? But in 2050, 72% of us will be under 35. So we're not about, by demographic, we're not going to grow older, we're going to grow younger. And what that means is that the earlier you have the representation of the Z, Y, X generations speaking to you about digital, maybe burdening them even with the work of going to ensure cyber resilience, the better for all of us. And Chief, you raised very important points. I think the point about where Nigeria is Nigeria is a tier 2, tier 3. We still have tier 4 and tier 5 to go. So we are an establishing nation. We have not reached. The journey is still far. So we are a tier 3 nation that is just establishing cyber security, cyber resilience foundation. And where we are strongest is in law and regulation. We actually have a very robust cyber security policy. It's one of the best in the world, okay? We also have a very robust cyber security strategic plan, one of the best in the world. I mean, this is by pair ranking. Now, the question is, we need to execute it. Right? And I think that's the bigger conversation about not just cybersecurity, but anything in governance in Nigeria. And that's a whole other lecture. the point you then made with regards to how do you leverage all this, right, from where we are to where we need to go? I'll say begin with number one, the cyber resilience framework. Okay, and I've proposed one. Adopt a cyber resilience framework that allows you to at least take the steps to check what are our risks. Okay, based on those risks, do we have the foundational security layers? If those are in place, are we exploiting the opportunities? Something that Prof just mentioned. What is the opportunity outlay for us to leverage and create and trap value? Can we expand and take that value because we now have the foundation for it? Because, like I said, the imperative is not to simply protect yourself. No, the imperative is to win in a global digital economy that will shape our world and to become competitive in doing so. And by the way, Nigerians build really robust digital systems. Flutterwave has one of the best security architectures built by Nigerians, owned, well, they used to be owned by Nigerians, I don't know about now. but built by Nigerians, started by Nigerians, but of course, a unicorn is not a unicorn if it remains owned by Nigerians. It has to become owned by the richest people in the world for it to continue to grow in value. And so I think Nigerians know how to do this work. We just now need to commit to getting the work done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, our keynote speaker. Thank you for the generous applause to him. You kindly remain standing there while I invite our host, Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, the president and chairman of council, to kindly come up to give him a well-deserved award. You can see the applause is still coming for very rich and robust conversation you have led today. Like I said, I'm happy I introduced you as articulate, brilliant, and celebrant and sought after. So it's going to catch a flight now again for another deliverables, right? All right, thank you.
Check over, yes. We need a mic? Yeah. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My apologies to my vices, the first vice and the second vice president. Our keynote speaker is in a hurry. He has a flight to catch. So ordinarily, I should have called you up here. But doctor, we want to thank you most sincerely for this paper. And we really appreciate, and we can really see where we are in Nigeria, but it's the journey that is on, and I'm sure we'll catch it. Thank you very much for this presentation. Thank you very much.
Just a short one, just a short group photograph with him, the chairman of the occasion and the first vice and the second vice president. Kindly come, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, for this presentation, I want to ask the second vice president to use the position of the chairman of this occasion.
Mr. President, for this opportunity and this honor to hand over this plaque of gratitude from the Chartered Institute of Directors to the chairman, erudite, Silk, SAN, Dr. Idigbe. Thank you very much for your opening remarks.
She's my classmate.
Thank you very much, our keynote speaker and the chairman of the occasion. Well deserved awards. Quickly now we'll take the documentary in honor of Alhaji Tijjani and Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD, Media.
Swimming against the current, swimming against the current. I think I need you. I need you. Trying so hard to finish, trying so hard to finish. Strong, but I need you. I need you. You are my star. You show me the way back to you. Yeah.
In the history of every great institution, there comes a defining moment, a moment when legacy must be preserved, and new leadership must rise with clarity, courage, and compassion. This was that moment, and Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD, was that leader. Appointed as the 18th president of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, just after the institute attained its chartered status in May 2023, he stepped into office at a historic crossroads. But before the boardroom and bylaws was a journey that began in Plateau State, where Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo was born in 1956. He had his primary education in Jos, then moved to Maiduguri for his A-levels. He studied law at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, graduating in 1979, and was called to the bar in 1980 after completing law school. From 1980 to 1981, he served his NYSC in Rivers State. After that, he joined the Kano State Ministry of Justice, where he served with distinction for 10 years, rising to become the Director of Public Prosecution. Then came a new chapter, a transition into Nigeria's banking sector, where he would serve for the next 29 years. His experience, his integrity, his leadership only deepened. This was the making of a leader, one shaped not just by profession, but by principle. As president of F.CIoD Nigeria, he brought all those years of quiet excellence into a role that demanded strength. With humility and purpose, he led the institute through one of its most important transitions from IOD to CIOD, helping to implement the new law and establishing strong institutional structures that would serve generations.
It's been an extremely pleasurable experience. Alhaji Borrodo brings to the role of president of CIOD a wealth of experience, having been involved in high-level boards, particularly in the banking industry. He was able to bring all that experience to bear on his role as president of CIOD. And during his tenure, some of the very crucial things that we undertook, I think more than anything else, was the transition from when we were IOD to becoming CIOD. So implementing a significant portion of the new law in terms of putting the structures in place, all took place during his tenure. And I think at the end of the day, I think we've had a very, very successful period. So his tenure is something I will look back to with a great deal of admiration and respect.
As a leader, he provided the kind of thoughtful and deliberate leadership that inspired confidence across the council and the broader IOD membership. Again, under his guidance, the Institute was able to adjust to its new status with the seamless reconstitution of the governing council, which was a very delicate thing, and the inclusion of key ministries, departments, and agencies of government, thereby fulfilling the mandate of our chartered status, which is very, very significant. It has been, for me, a time of intentional consolidation and forward momentum. And personally, I am very, very proud to have had the opportunity to serve alongside him and other members of the team and to have been part of this journey.
The most unique one, I would say, is his ability for team play, his ability to carry everyone along, his knack for ensuring that every stakeholder is brought into play when any decision is to be taken. He has a way of reaching out to everybody and in a very humble manner and getting the insight of everybody. And second, he also has a way of convincing people. If at first you don't agree with him, by the time he explains the motive behind the actions that is being taken, while that action is being taken and everything, you may have no choice but to agree eventually. And I think also I would give it to him in terms of his ability to listen to the other side, because sometimes there are issues we raise that he didn't initially agree with, but his ability to invite you to discuss it, also give you his own insight on the matter, and then at the end of the day, we disagree to agree. And of course, that is what will move the organization forward. So I would say those are critical things he brought into play, especially the peculiar nature of the last 2 years of the Institute. Because peculiar in the nature of that, we are going to do things we've never done before. We are going to change the way things were being done. The way he managed that transition, that everybody was on the same page with him as we move along, for me was a learning curve.
When I became the president, I had certain things at the back of my mind when I was taking over from Dr. Jidema. What I assured her was that there was going to be continuity in what we were doing. So when I became the president, I had a focus on the 3 R's. That is review, reform, invigorate. We have done a lot of review in terms of the Institute as a whole. We have done a lot of reform in the membership because we believe that was an area that we needed to work on. We have done a lot of reform, which was driven by the second vice president. But I'm happy that at the end of the day, what the exercise she has done, we have taken it to council, the council has approved it, and that's the blueprint now that we're using to have membership and branch development. And then we want to reinvigorate what's happening in the Institute. If you see the staff demography, there are people who are passionate, lots of them who respect, they are younger people, willing to learn, willing to show I can do it. So to me, that's one of the way we have reinvigorated the Institute, because I believe that's the future of the Institute and the future of the country.
But beyond the president was a friend, a partner, a father, and a grandfather. His wife remembers not just the board meetings, but the integrity that shaped every aspect of their life together.
Well, when he became the president, it was an exciting moment for all of us as a family. My husband is, we call him a workaholic. He works very hard. He's a dedicated person. Whatever he puts his mind on, he sees it to the letter. He finishes it and he does it very well. So when he became the president, I had no doubt that he was going to do it, and he would do it very well. So as a family, it was a big thing for us. We're happy, we're proud of him, and we made up our mind to stand by him, whatever it is to support him.
Over the years, his shelf has filled with plaques, awards, and recognitions, not just for service, but for the spirit in which he rendered it. Each one a testimony to a man who did more than lead. He served. Under his watch, the Institute experienced what many called his greatest legacy, peace. During a time when transitions often bring tension and loss, his calm leadership ensured unity, speed, and strength.
I think his last legacy will be the peace that pervaded the Institute, even in the process of transiting. And we shouldn't take it for granted. We shouldn't take it for granted, because I have seen many organizations that transition becomes an issue. It becomes a problem, because no matter what, when you transit, some people will lose position, things will change, and it's likely that those who will lose position may want to kind of resist. I think that's the legacy he will leave, the peace that pervaded the entire transition period, and the success of that transition plan, the record time we were able to make it happen.
My successes is the transition. And one of my challenges also is the transition. Let me tell you about the challenge. You see, we are moving people from their comfort zone, something they've been doing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. And we came and said, now, since we became charter, we cannot run the institute in that manner. That's one of the biggest challenges. Some of them said, look, one of them said, TJ, why are you in a hurry? I said, I'm in a hurry, how? Because I said I was going to dissolve the ESCO, I was going to dissolve the council, I was going to dissolve all the committees. He said, why are you in a hurry? I said, sir, our status as a chartered institute clearly said this is the way we are going to run the institute. So all these structures that we have, they have to go before we have the new structures. That's part of the challenge. Some of them did not believe that was possible, but I think we were able to do it. So the council we have now, the ESCO we have now, the committees we have now, the industry we have, they are all as provided by the charter. So to me, it's a major thing that has happened in the last 2 years. And of course, it came with its own challenges.
Every leadership journey eventually comes to a pause, not because the work is done, but because new seasons must begin. As Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo steps away from the seat of the presidency, he steps into a new phase, one marked not by duties, but by legacy, not by titles, but by the deep fulfillment of a race well run. In this moment of reflection, we hear from those closest to him, his colleagues, friends, and beloved family members, sharing heartfelt remarks about the man beyond the title.
Well, first and foremost, I wish him all the best. He has devoted a lot of time, energy, and efforts into his role as president, so it's not an easy role. So first and foremost, I'd like to commend him. Whatever future endeavors he seeks to undertake, I believe his tenure has been a great success, and I can only hope that he will continue to lend his time to the affairs of the Institute so that we will not miss him too much when he leaves.
I want to seize this opportunity to thank Alhaji Borrodo, LLM, President and Chairman of Council, for his service and his leadership. And I want to seize this opportunity to wish him continued success and fulfillment in all his endeavors and in all that lies ahead of him.
I want to wish Alhaji Tijjani Muhammad Borrodo, LLM F.CIoD, every success in his future endeavor after leaving the presidency of the institute. I remember what he also tells me all the time: you are not successful until your successor is successful. So while I wish him well, I also want him to keep supporting his successor so that what he usually tells me comes to pass.
I look forward to having my husband back. And the times that we've sacrificed for him to be with the IOD, the holidays that we've missed together while he is working with the IOD, Chartered Institute of Directors. So I look forward to having my husband back, having the good, although we've always been having the good time, but he's going to be more at home now, more with the family. That's what I look forward to. Although I know there are more challenges ahead, he will move forward, but at least this is something that will have him back as a husband. My husband is a gift from God to me. He's a good man. I want him to keep being good. I want him to be himself. And I will say thank you to him for being a wonderful husband, a father, and a president of Chartered Institute of Directors.
I believe what we've done, another president, all he needs to do is come and add to it. So I think the lesson I will leave behind for him is that he must continue to be a team player. We have PCSC. It's an advisory body for the president, made of the president, the two vice presidents, the DG, the honorary legal advisor, and all the treasurer. It's an advisory body to the president and the immediate vice president. I have found that very, very useful. I bounce a lot of things on the PCSC. I have my own thoughts, but by the time I listen to my colleagues in the PCSC, I listen to them more. So I'll ask Tunji to listen to the PCSC as much as possible. He will continue to be the good leader he has been. To say that our members must remember what we are. We are Chartered Institute of Directors. Integrity, professionalism are core to what we do. And my appeal to every member of the Institute, every member, and our staff is integrity and professionalism are core to what we do. That's what makes us different from many other professional bodies. So these are my words. Integrity, professionalism are the core things we should continue to drive as an Institute of Directors.
Leadership is not only about the titles we bear, but the values we leave behind, the systems we build, the culture we protect, and the lives we touch. Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo's journey at F.CIoD Nigeria may be concluding, but the impact of his leadership will continue to echo. This is not just the end of a tenure, it is the celebration of a legacy and the beginning of a new, richly deserved chapter.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful documentary there celebrating President and Chairman of Council, Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Hajiya Larai, mun gode miki kwarai da gaske domin wannan baiwa da kike bamu. Allah madaukakin sarki saka miki da alheri, ya biya bukata kamar yadda muka yin addu'o'i ma nan Nigeria, wannan bangare a Lagos, a Koba, a Daba. Kin fahimta? Kin fahimta addu'a in? Yawwa, o lati ye yin, ẹ ṣá ti pẹ́ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ díẹ̀. All right, Udodi, kaina ga nusoro nusoro. All right, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we would like to go toward the unveiling of the F.CIoD Nigeria logo. My honor to invite the chairman of the branding committee, F.CIoD Nigeria, Prince Dakbob Adelegan, F.CIoD, to make some remarks before the video for the unveiling is played.
Mr. President, distinguished members of the Presidium, special guests, and the chairman of the occasion, members of the Committee on Branding, as well as members of the IOD. It's my greatest pleasure to preside over the unveiling of the new logo of the CIOD. But before I proceed, I would like to take the indulgence of the House that we all stand up and give Mr. President a standing ovation. Please. Please, Mr. President can sit down. Please sit down, please sit down. Thank you very much, thank you. That was important simply because of the importance of rebranding of CIOD. And we decided that on the day of a ceremony of this nature, which is like a send-off for the president, we should at least unveil the logo, the new logo, in honor of his passion, and positive vibes towards the refocusing and the rebranding of the IOD to CIOD. So a documentary that details the transition will show in a few minutes while I step aside. And afterwards, I'll invite the president and critical members of the CIOD upstairs for the unveiling of the logo. The journey took about 6 months from the creation of the committee, and our mandate was simple. We selected about 5 advertising agencies. Through rigorous processes, we selected one, Nitro 121, they're here today, one of the biggest and best advertising agencies in the country. And we also had to go through the council for negotiation. And I think that we have reached the point where we can say we have a campaign. We will commence immediately after this unveiling the projection of the new CIOD brand across various platforms across the country. And we're going to be knocking on doors of some corporate members of the CIOD to also support in making that a reality over the next few months. So the documentary, please. Thank you for listening.
Swimming against the current, swimming against the current. I think I need you. I need you. Trying so hard to finish, trying so hard to finish strong, but I need you. I need you. You are my star. You show me the way back to you. Yeah.
In the history of every great institution, there comes a defining moment, a moment when legacy must be preserved, and new leadership must rise with clarity, courage, and compassion. This was that moment, and Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo, LLM, F.CIoD, was that leader. Appointed as the 18th president of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, just after the institute attained its chartered status in May 2023, he stepped into office at a historic crossroads. But before the boardroom and bylaws was a journey that began in Plateau State, where Alhaji Tijjani M. Borrodo was born in 1956. He had his primary education in Jos, then moved to Maiduguri for his A-levels. He studied law at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, graduating in 1979, and was called to the bar in 1980 after completing law school. From 1980 to 1981, he served his NYSC in Rivers State. After that, he joined the Kano State Ministry of Justice, where he served with distinction for 10 years, rising to become the Director of Public Prosecution. Then came a new chapter, a transition into Nigeria's banking sector, where he would serve for the next 29 years. His experience, his integrity, his leadership only deepened. This was the making of a leader, one shaped not just by profession, but by principle. As president of CIOD Nigeria, He brought all those years of quiet excellence into a role that demanded strength. With humility and purpose, he led the institute through one of its most important transitions, from IOD to CIOD, helping to implement the new law and establishing strong institutional structures that would serve generations.
It's been an extremely pleasurable experience. Alhaji Borrodo brings to...
Thank you very much. On this note, it is my greatest pleasure to invite the President, the first and second Vice Presidents, the Chairman of the occasion, as our guest speaker has left, and all past Presidents and the DG to please step up so we can unveil the new logo of the CIoD. Please do. Please give them a round as they're coming up. Let's keep them up. Yes, sir. Yes, yes. Yes.
I, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, say
Hooray!
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. That is the new identity of your institute, the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Thank you very much. Okay. For picture, okay.
So we are continuing with the awards now.
I would also like to invite the honorary treasurer. Honorary treasurer, Mrs. Oyetuji. Kindly come, please.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just to show my appreciation in terms of what Tunji has been to me, good support, good first vice president. Tunji, this is from me to you. I thank you most sincerely. I mean, you've been very, very supportive. Continue to commend you for the work you have done with us. Only have you been the good second vice? This is the first vice. I mean, I thank you for being one of my vices. Thank you for being here. And of course, I haven't finished yet. And to Dr. Tijjani says I have passed. I will not say I have passed. I'm still under her privilege. My IPP, I thank you most sincerely for your support, for your guidance, for your. What about this? The little words from you and me, then when she says that, I know I did it myself. I thank you most sincerely for this. Thank you, my IPP. And of course, it's all about money. For me, you've really done so well for us. If you see our finances, she's done so much in terms of improving the way, manner we manage our finances. And let's be honest, I didn't expect this. Thank you for being treasurer. And of course, yours truly, for all that we've been doing now, this is the engine, the teaching. Teaching, I thank you most sincerely. You and your team wouldn't have succeeded in what you have done without you. To me, this is to you and also your team. Thank you very much, teacher. My past presidents, I thought I should appreciate the members of the president. I thank you for your time. Also, thank you for your guidance. Thank you very much.
President, distinguished past president, distinguished members of the PCS. As you are all aware, December of every year, the Institute presents Corporate Governance Awards. Last year, the winner was recommended by the Nigerian Stock Exchange, sorry, the NGX, was conspicuously absent, and they thereafter sent a letter to tell us why they would make it, which was very understandable. Today, the representative of Seplat Energy PLC are here. I want to invite them to the podium and to collect the 2024 Corporate Governance Award presented to the organization by the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. Mr. President.
I just ask one of my bosses, who is the doyen in the absence of the doyen here, please? Sir, kindly do this information. Separate were absent because of good reasons. So we believe it's important when we have reasons to give an award. They were away with national assignment. That's why they were not here. So can you, on behalf of the governing council, present this?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And let the whole world know that this is corporate governance. I think it's a clean understanding. To so recognize for governance presented. Congratulations.
Okay, let me come. No, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We can now let's first take the group photograph. I think they said they wanted the photograph.
Yes, if we take it and then that's
yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We're about wrapping up. It's now time for lunch. I will have 7 points. 1, 2, 3. Presidency and our distinguished guests will please come to this one here by my left. The rest of us, please, let's leave this one for presidency and our distinguished guests. We have enough 7 points. There's one here and there's one over there. May we please proceed for lunch. Bon appétit.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to you all. I think I will just do this statutory duty, and which is to give the vote of thanks, to appreciate
everyone in every organization that has supported us to have this wonderful program. And as usual, I would like to start with the organizations that have supported this program. Our sponsors, thank them for making it, for helping to make it possible to host this program. Want to thank Intercontinental Distillers Limited, FBN Quest Merchant Bank, Sanlam Alliance, Seplat Energy, Signature Bank, Zenith Bank, and Unit Trust Insurance Company Limited. If your hands are not too busy, can we please give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? We thank them for making this possible. Then I will move to, in the spirit of the rebranding of the institute, I would like to move to the past leadership of this institute, ably led here this afternoon by our amiable past president, Mr. Femi Ekodayo, distinguished fellow of the institute. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. I also want to recognize architect T.C. Awagu, distinguished fellow of the institute. Thank you very much, sir. We also want to thank Mr. Chike Unwanze, distinguished fellow of the institute. Thank you very much for coming, sir. And of course, I want to thank Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, distinguished fellow of the institute. Thank you very much for coming. Also, we're grateful to Chief Chris Olufunlola Okunowo, distinguished fellow of the institute. Thank you very much for your leadership and for attending this program. I would like to appreciate the chairman of today's occasion, though he's not here now, but I think I'll need to tell members that this man played a significant role during the quest for chartership. And it's so coincidentally right that he's here today as we're unveiling the new CIoD Nigeria. I want to say a big thank you in absentia to Chief Anthony Idigbe, son, F.CIoD. I want to thank our guest lecturer who gave us a very practical and, if I can say so, scary lecture about cyber security. Through this, like he said, whether we like it or not, it is here. And we have no choice but to embrace it. So we just need to do our best, understand and mitigate the risk involved, and take advantage of the opportunities it presents. So I say thank you to Dr. Tayo Aduloju, who did not disappoint at all. I also want to thank members of the Presidium, the first Vice President, the second Vice President. I want to thank them for the support they have given the Institute the last 2 years and beyond, and also for attending this program. I want to thank members of the Governing Council, especially those members who traveled all the way from Abuja. The chairman of our Abuja branch, Mrs. Nwando, fellow of the Institute, Mrs. Chukura Nwando, thank you very much, ma'am, for coming all the way from Abuja. We appreciate you. I want to also appreciate Alhaji Lamis Diko, fellow of the Institute Governing Council member. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Abuja. And of course, our own Honorable Shola Ephraim Oluwanuga, all the way from Abuja too. Thank you very much for coming. Some of the elders of the Institute who are here, I want to thank Lady Maiden Ibru, the publisher of The Guardian. Thank you very much for your support all the time. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming, man. God bless you. We also want to thank the presidents of other business membership organizations who are here this afternoon. We thank you very much for the support. We thank you all, captains of industry. There are so many managing directors and chairmen of boards here. We can't start mentioning you one after the other, but we appreciate you for coming. I didn't expect that Alhaji Borrodo would draw less of a crowd. We thank you very much. I also want to thank specifically the family of our president, the Borrodo family. We thank you very much for the support you have given all this while, and also for attending this event. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you also goes to members of the Secretariat who have put this together. I want to thank them for the unrelenting efforts they have put to ensure this is a success. We do not take it for granted. Everyone is duly appreciated. Thank you very much for the tireless work you have done to make sure this is a success. Lastly, I want to thank, of course, Mr. President, the President and Chairman of the Governing Council, Alhaji Tijjani Borrodo. Thank you very much for your leadership as we wish you more successes in your present and future endeavors. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for making it here this afternoon. I thank you for coming in on time, which made us to start early enough. And I wish you all a very safe journey back to your various destinations and a wonderful rest of the day. Of course, our Master of Ceremonies, we thank you very much. Thank you for the good job you did here. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all a very wonderful evening. Thank you very much.